Hello and welcome to the Glasgow PT podcast, live on YouTube and Facebook. It's episode 51 and I am very, very excited. Scott and I are ready to introduce. I'm sure if you're watching on the lives, you'll know that face. And it's Bret Contreras.
Thanks for
Bret,
having me.
how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Just wrapping up.
Yeah.
Just wrapping up some morning sessions, was that?
Yeah.
Yeah. How's things over there? How's the lockdown and what's the situation? We're on just 1 hour a day exercise and essential food shops. What's your situation?
Yeah. So California is we didn't get hit as hard as New York and places like that, but we're still under quarantine. We're still on lockdown. But I still come to my gym every day. Obviously, I own it, but yeah, things are going to start opening up little by little. Like actually today, the beaches are going to open up for people who want to run and walk along the beach.
Awesome, man. Good stuff. We are very excited to have you on, mate. We know that you're probably the busiest man in fitness, so we appreciate the time that you're taking out. I know there's a lot of people listening and watching that are absolutely psyched. Scott and I, obviously being personal trainers, have a large female client base. We also, obviously, in the local area, are friends with a lot of our fellow peers, personal trainers, online coaches. So yeah, all of it is geared around your style of training and what you sort of put out there on a weekly basis, mate. So yeah, very excited to have you on. So yeah, just for the people who have been living under a rock, mate, and don't know who you are, could you just give us a quick rundown of what you've been up to, who you are, and what you do?
Yeah, so I've been a personal trainer for 23 years now. Been lifting weights for 28 years. Along the way, I got my PhD. I'm most well known for the glutes and for being the inventor of the barbell hip thrust. It's funny, people assume that lift's been around forever. It has not. People did hip thrust, but not with a lot of load, not with barbell loading. And yeah, I've just really been on a mission to kind of like improve glute training. I think we had most of muscle groups. You look at the way people train their pecs, their delts, their biceps, their triceps, their quads, their hamstrings. Nothing's changed that much in the last, 15, 20 years. But the only muscle group that's changed a lot is glutes. And I think I came along at a time when Kim Kardashian and people were becoming popular and people started wanting bigger glutes. And I happened to come along right at that time. And I was saying, everyone was doing squats and lunges and deadlifts. And I started saying, do those, but also do bridges and hip thrust and abduction. And, it just came along at the right time. And then we've seen a huge change in glute training and it's been an interesting ride because I've had a lot of people who don't like what I have to say and people who don't like my advice along the way. And anytime your methods get popular, you get met with some adversity. And it's been interesting for me to see how the kind of evolution out of all of it. Like, for example, I know when Instagram came along, used to be people only listened to the male strength coaches back in the day and the male bodybuilders. And then Instagram came along and the women would have way more followers than the men. If you were a really fit woman, you'd have way more followers than the men. And the women would say, oh my God, I love this barbell hip thrust. This is my favorite glute exercise. And then a guy would come on and be like, that's stupid, just squat. And the girl would go like, I squat, but I don't feel my glutes working nearly as well. And the guy, he previously could have bullied before Instagram, the people would have bullied that woman into thinking she's stupid or something. And instead, now the woman would stand up and her comments would get all these likes and then also would shut the men up. And that's what really led to the spread of the popularity of the hip thrust was Instagram. Every woman was doing it and saying they love it. And so now it's like, it depends on the gym you're at, but it's kind of a staple exercise. But I see that as kind of being my mission is to popularize the barbell hip thrust.
Yeah. I think you've achieved that, mate, and then some. But yeah, a lot of it would have been down to timing as well, just the time you were at in your career, finishing your PhD, what you saw with your vision and the industry, what mark you wanted to make. And obviously Instagram helped that because it's very aesthetic based platform, isn't it? So you're able to showcase your physique and stuff more. So yeah, Scott and I are going to delve deeper into the hip thrust a wee bit later on, which and the growth of it and how it's sort of taken off. Scott's just going to kind of ask a bit about the book before we delve into other stuff.
Yeah, mate, I was wanting to kind of find out a little bit about the motivation behind the book mostly. Like, I know you've got a book that's out not too long ago, The Glute Lab, The Art and Science of Strength and Physique Training. What's it about? Who's it for? What was your kind of main sort of motivation behind putting it together?
So, Victory Belt Publishing, they came to me years ago, and they wanted me to write a book on glute training, and I said, I really want to do this well, and I don't think I'm the best writer in the world. I need help because I see it being like really comprehensive, and I would like some help. I want to partner up with Glenn Cordoza. He wrote Supple Leopard. So first Glenn was all over it, and then all of a sudden Glenn's like, I'm overwhelmed. I've been taking on too many projects. Can you find another author? And I said, no, I'll wait. He's like, it might be a couple years. And I'm, yeah, I'll wait. I think you're the best for this, and I'm willing to wait. I'm patient. So, it was about a year later, he emails me, okay, I'm good. I'm ready to do this. But I wanted Victory Belt because, I know what's best for as an educator. I have my master's degree in curriculum and instruction, and I used to be a teacher. So I knew that this book would, I had my vision I wanted it to be, a lot of the book companies are like, no, we want it to be 300 pages, or no, this section doesn't belong. I don't want anyone telling me what should and should not be included. And Victory Belt kind of gave me free reign to, we delved into so many different topics. I made sure to include stuff on nutrition, stuff on like pain and training around injuries, stuff on, rehab, stuff on, exercise descriptions, but also program design. It's really, really comprehensive, and we spent 2 years of our lives on it, and it's 606 pages, jam-packed full of info, and I'm so glad they let me do that because I still don't know how they make a profit off this book, because on Amazon in the US it's like $35, and it's so cheap. Like, it's considering it's 606 pages on high quality paper. But what I really like is that you read the reviews on Amazon, it's like there's almost 1,000 reviews, and they're almost all 5-star reviews. So that means so much to me that people are learning from the book and they value it, because I always want to over deliver on the quality and the content.
Yeah. I think that we'll both agree that is the case. And I remember you saying that you wanted it to be a sort of a book that people would be proud to have on their coffee table. And that sort of hit home with me. And the fact that you spent so long waiting for the right offer, putting years in what you've trained for 28 years. And majority of that is going to be down on paper. And what I like about that, especially Scott and I, well, as coaches, we want to educate our clients. And, when you send PDFs out and ebooks out to people, they don't often read them. But hopefully with guys like yourself putting out books, it raises the importance of, there's more to just doing the exercise. There's the stretching, there's the activation, there's the learning about other aspects of it, the rep ranges, the tempo, and that's all covered in the book. So, yeah, as fellow coaches, we love that. There's, clients that have really got glute-based goals. It's like, go and focus on the book. You'll probably learn more than I ever done if you read the book before me, and your goals are proper glute-based. So, yeah, it's great from a trainer's point of view as well, because, well, we can get educated on it so that we can be fully equipped with our clients. And obviously, as trainers, we should be developing that way. So any trainer that doesn't have it, then, you're missing a trick, especially in this day and age, as we know, glute training is so popular. So, yeah, mate, big thanks from trainers for that.
Funny you say that, because I sit there and I was as an up and coming trainer, I wanted to learn. I bought everyone's books. I have a bookshelf just full of books. We all read, all the trainers from my era. We had all these books we read, and we all knew them like the back of our hands. And it's like, why wouldn't you want to learn from a guy who's literally been obsessed with glute training for 20 plus years? Over 2 decades of being obsessed with glutes. I'm going to know a lot more than you are on it. You know what I mean? And you can learn from it. And now you're a better coach. You're a better trainer, and you can help your clients more. And that's what I always thought. Learn from everyone and kind of steal from them. I know for me, when I first started training people, my style was like highly influenced by Louis Simmons and Dave Tate and Jim Wendler and Joe DeFranco and Eric Cressy, Mike Boyle, all these guys that I really respected, that I learned a lot from. And then I started making it my own once I had enough, but first copy what the best of the best do, because chances are they're better than you are as a beginner. And then you start to learn your own stuff and kind of branch off and figure out your own methods and drift off in your own direction. But I mean, I think it's just a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you learn from people who have been doing it a lot longer and prioritizing it? And then even if you work with athletes, you can take away stuff, because I work with mostly bikini competitors. Even if you work with male bodybuilders, you can learn a thing or two still from my book.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. So that will take us into the next point, Bret, about, I'm sure you've been asked this and emails have been firing in, and your team in your groups and stuff about lockdown. And I saw a post you done last week, I think it was, about it. But everybody out there who have been working hard on the glutes, as we know, it's a muscle that takes some time. It takes a lot of nutrition to get right, a lot of hard training, failure sets, everything else. They're all worried about their glute gains, aren't they? They're starting to panic. Their bum is going to disappear. What would you say right now, mate, that people have to focus on? What advice would you give? Is there a saving grace, or just whatever you've been saying to your guys? Could you tell the listeners, give them a bit of hope or give them a bit of direction?
So it's funny. I've thought a lot about this, and in my book, I wrote the book Bodyweight Strength Training Anatomy in 2012. And in that book, I said, I truly believe you can maintain your muscle mass with body weight training. And I still believe that for the most part, but I don't know with glutes. Anyway, I've been thinking a lot about it, and I'm like, look at the gymnasts. The gymnasts aren't as jacked as male bodybuilders, like even natural ones. So I kind of do think you need some weights, but then the gymnasts train for gymnastics, they don't rep out to failure and do progressive overload necessarily. They'll do progressive variations, but it's all about their gymnastics training. So I don't know what I think. I've heard mixed things about, but these are anecdotes. They're not controlled studies. I've heard mixed things from my people. Some people are like, I feel like I've deflated. And other people are like, oh my God, I feel like I'm doing all these home workouts, and I think my glutes and legs look even better, because maybe some people respond better to higher reps, and maybe some people respond better to heavyweight. We don't know that yet, but it could be that. But what I do know is that I know you can maintain most of your muscle mass with body weight training. I mean, you can do awesome. I mean, even like. Me, I weigh 250 pounds. I don't know what you guys go by stones, right? Like in Scotland.
Kilograms.
Kilograms.
Who uses stones?
Well, we use it.
I don't know.
We use it. I think that's an older thing in Scotland, probably.
Aye.
Non-fitness.
Well, I get DMs from people that are like, I weigh 10 stones. I'm like, what does that mean? So, but anyway, in kilos, I might, I weigh like 115 kilos, and if I do like 3 sets of 30 bodyweight squats, my quads are pumped, and that's just bodyweight squats. But people think, they think, oh, that's lightweight, but you can build muscle mass doing that. And then if you single leg training, single leg exercises are hard. Pistol squats are hard. So, and for hamstrings, like if you can do Nordic ham curls, you do tons of Nordics, your hamstrings are gonna, be just fine. Now with glutes, there's a ton of stuff you can do. So you can do single leg exercise, like I mentioned. So these are your lunges, your Bulgarian split squats, your step ups, your single leg, like your single leg box squats, or your pistols, or even your skater squats. Those are all single leg movements that work your glutes well. You also have single leg hip thrusts, and then you have your different glute bridge and hip thrusts. Now, I think like body weight glute bridges and body weight hip thrusts are only really good for beginners. But if you have a band, like a glute loop or a mini band to put around your knees, then you can do them, with the mini band, and it makes them a lot harder. But I do high rep frog pumps. Frog pumps, if I do a set of like, I'll do 80, instead of 80, then 60, then like 60 again. So 80, 60, 60. And my glutes are like waddle off, they're pumped. Now, you also have your abduction work that you can do. You have your, all the stuff you can do with bands with abduction, but also even if you don't have band, you just have body weight, you have your extra range sideline hip abduction, your sideline hip raise. So I do think, and that's for your upper glutes, your gluteus maximus, that has an upper and lower subdivision, but then you have your glute medius. And so I think you can maintain most of your glutes. The problem is people don't learn more advanced variations, and they don't train to failure, and they don't train progressively. But if you do that, I do think you can absolutely maintain, and even a lot of people could grow their glutes if they trained really hard and utilize progression.
Yeah. I think there's obviously like a kind of a bit of a difference between what's required to maintain and what you'd have to do to progress. And maybe for some people who are more trained, it might be a more realistic expectation to maintain. But maybe for people who are kind of a little bit fresher to it, a little bit more new to glute training, there could be expectations there that they can still certainly progress because they're kind of adapting to these kind of exercises. They're doing them for the first time. It's kind of quite fresh. So there's still a lot of room for maneuver. So I don't know if you think that kind of maybe start point and things like that and these other variables can sometimes maybe play a little bit of a part into whether or not people during this time, what sort of expectations they should have in terms of maybe progression, or whether it is more realistic to say, I'm just want to focus just solely on maintaining what I've got and make that the expectation.
Yeah. So I think, since most people don't have a lot of equipment, like I even tell the people, they're like, all I have is, a pair of 10-kilogram dumbbells, and I'm like, that's great. Like that's infinitely better than just body weight, because now you can hold on to dumbbells when you do your single leg work. But anyway, even if you don't utilize progression, you just really squeeze the muscle and utilize the mind-muscle connection. I mean, you're at least going to maintain. You're not going to lose much glute mass in a couple of months of training from home. I think it's just what's hard is that we're so spoiled. We have our commercial gyms, and you think, if I'm not doing my same routine, I'm gonna shrink. If I'm not doing they're saying if I don't do my heavy hip thrusts, my glutes are shrinking. But we aren't scientific about it. You're going by what you feel and what you see in the mirror, and it might not be. I know I had one woman. She's from Sydney. Her name's Beth. And Beth wrote me, and she's like, "Oh my God, I thought my glutes had shrunk a lot, but I took a picture and I compared it to a couple of months ago, and I'm doing just fine. I haven't lost anything." So, the problem is people will just kind of go through the motions, and I'm seeing all these fitness people posting these circuits and this HIIT training, like high intensity interval training, and that's more for just burning calories, not building muscle. So that you have to be progressive in your approach. So it's like if I can do, and that would require us, we could do a whole podcast alone on progressive overload, because people just have such a poor understanding of it. It's so hard to teach. We'll say just do more over time. Well, so how's that work out? So with Bulgarian split squats, say I do Bulgarian split squat right now, and I can do 3 sets of 20, So then what do I try next week? 3 sets of 22. And the next week, we'll try 3 sets of 25. when you keep going, you can't just keep going. You get to a point where you're just the mere thought of doing a Bulgarian split squat and trying to beat 3 sets of 35 would be the worst thought in the world. So, okay, I'm not going to do 3 sets. I'll just do 1 hard set. But you have to make sure you're not using the back leg more. You have to make sure you're not using the back leg to push you up. You have to make sure your form is the same range of motion. Okay, I'll drop down to doing just 1 hard set. Now maybe you can bust out a set of 50 with each leg, you know? Then you get to a point where the mere thought of doing 1 set is torture. So you're like, okay, now I'm going to do 1 1/4 reps. I'll do 3 sets of going down all the way, up a quarter, back down, and then up all the way. And I'll do 1 1/4 or pause reps where I go to the bottom and pause for 3 seconds. Okay, now I'm getting 3 sets of 10 with a 3-second pause. Now I'm going to try for 12 reps or something, and you keep trying to, and then hopefully you keep making it harder. You keep switching things around. Then maybe you go back, and then the quarantine ends. You still do your Bulgarian split squats, but now you hold on to dumbbells or do it with a barbell or something.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you don't always do the Bulgarian split squat. You're going to include it some of your months you're not. But when you go back to it, you might be a little rusty, but you can quickly regain your strength and reach a new height. But then some weeks you set PRs, some weeks you don't. But every 6 months you should be a little bit stronger than you were before on some things, And people think, well, stronger means on 1 rep max. No, stronger means at any rep range. You can be stronger at 20 reps, stronger at 10 reps, stronger at 5 reps. They're all PRs. You're progressively overloading the muscles, which means doing more than you've ever done. But it's not linear. It doesn't work that way. I've had 5-year stints where my bench press didn't move at all, So it's difficult to discuss.
Yeah, that's what one of the things that I like there, mate, is something that I've been trying to get the message across is we've been spoiled. We have 100% been spoiled, especially when you talk about the commercial gyms, and we've been spoiled so much that I think it's got us in a bit of a rut. You'll know yourself, Bret, with people who don't do full range of motion. Now it's like, right, it's quite easy for people to put, I don't know, 80, 90, 100 kilo on their back, or 200 pounds, 220, whatever. And, just rep it out because that's what they do every week. When really it's like, well, you're at home now, you have a dumbbell, it's 10 kilo. It might be time to go full ass to grass, front squats, split squats. You're lucky that you didn't invent the Bulgarian split squat, otherwise you wouldn't be on tonight. Let's just say that. That's the devil exercise. But yeah, I think people have got to realise that we've been a bit spoiled here. So let's go back to when the gyms open back up. Let's go back with more mobility, more ideas that you have to be a bit more creative every now and again. Because like Bret said, the frog pumps, the 50, 60, 80 rep ranges, I don't care who you are. Those are burny, they're great, and you can do them in your living room with no kit.
Yep.
So I think that's something that people have got to take on board. We've got Bret here, who is the only person you should listen to about glutes, and that's the message that he's getting across. So let's work on your form, let's work on range of movement, so that when the gym opens back up, you're ready for that PR on hip thrust, split squats, back squats, for sure. So now we're going to touch on, Scott's going to ask you a bit about your business, mate, and a bit about the hip thrust as well.
Yeah, it was something I'd read, Bret. I think I read it was on your website. It was like a blog you'd done about how the hip thrust became a thing. Because I think, like, from the outset, if you just look in, it just looks like a sort of you've looked at a kind of issue, which is how do you load up a glute bridge or something like that, and then you've kind of manipulated it and made that happen. But I'd heard it didn't quite happen exactly like that. Were you watching like a UFC fight or something like that, and you were trying to work out how to get out of a particular move or something along those lines? Is that right?
Yeah, it was October 10th, 2006, and I was watching Tito Ortiz fight Ken Shamrock. There was their third fight. I didn't care who won. I just wanted it to be a good fight. And I'm like, I was watching these fights, and I'm like, man, a lot of these fighters aren't trying to buck their hips and escape. They just kind of lay there. They should be more. And I just remember when I used to wrestle with my twin brother back when we were kids. We'd always be bucking away, and you try your hardest to get that person off of you. And so I thought maybe if there was an exercise that made their glutes stronger from that motion, then it would help. So then I thought of the barbell, the glute bridge. I thought, I wonder if you could load that up. And I'm like, how could you load up? I never thought of putting a barbell in your lap. I thought of having something underneath you and you being in between two things. So I thought, well, you could put your back on the rounded pad of the glute ham raise and your feet on the reverse hyper, and you'd have this space in the middle to dip your hips, and you could put a dip belt over your hips and have weight suspended underneath you. So like this is the reverse hyper right here that I used. That's the same one, right?
Nice.
Same reverse hyper that I used way back in the day. It was 14 years ago. So I put that reverse hyper like next to the glute ham pad, put 4 plates, so 180 pounds, so like what is that, like 80, 85 kilos.
Yeah.
And I started doing this motion, and at about 15 reps, I remember my glutes were, they were cramping up so bad, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like the exercise I've always been wanting to do, because I can do lunges and my glutes are sore the next day, but I don't feel like they're the limiting factor. In this exercise, I feel like my glutes are what prevent me from doing another rep. So then I was like, oh man, I need to like promote this exercise. But I'm like, how many people have a glute ham developer and a reverse hyper? And it's also dangerous. What if they split apart and you fell down? So I was like, all right, I need to keep thinking. And so that led me to think of how to do it differently. And then when I went to write about it, I'm like, I need to figure out a way to teach to the masses. And it dawned on me that you could just do it off a bench with a barbell. That took me 2 years later to think of that, But anyway, well, we started using a barbell, but it was never off a regular bench. I always liked having your back and your feet elevated, but now I like the standard version more. But that's the evolution of how, and it's funny because I remember when I first thought of it, I wasn't loading it yet. I was having my clients do high reps, but I'd have them put their back on this 45-degree hyper machine that I had. It had a lip on it, and I'd have them put there, and then they'd stand and they'd put their feet against my quads. I'd stand there and kind of in like a semi-squat. They put their feet against my quads, and they dip down and thrust up, and they loved it. And they'd be like, "Can we do that glute thingy again?" And they do like sets of 30, and they just loved it. So then it was just this evolution. So from there, everything kind of, the single leg, the band hip thrust, the barbell plus band, knee banded, it all just kind of blossomed from there. And now there's so many different variations. It's crazy.
Yeah. Was there a point where, sorry, I was probably going to ask, was there a point where you kind of felt as though, right, this is going to be a big thing? Was there a kind of point in your kind of career where you sort of realized this is kind of taken off in a big way, or was it more kind of gradual than that? Did it sort of build up over time? Did it take time to get that message out, or did it just kind of explode?
So I think the turning point for me was a few years back when The Rock did him on his Instagram. I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. The Rock is doing hip thrusts and he loves them. He loves the hip thrust. But for me, it wasn't a turn. I just knew, I was like, I'm not religious, I'm not very spiritual, but when I thought up the hip thrust 14 years ago, the first night I thought up the hip thrust, I actually walked out into my front yard and I looked up into the sky and I went, holy crap, my whole life is about to change. I'm going to spend the rest of my life popularizing this exercise. And I have. And, in the beginning, it wasn't about the money. It was never about the money. It was just, I want to popularize my methods, and I can do that by blogging 4 times a week and YouTubing and putting out free content and being active on social media. And that's what I did. And I'd have all these guys write me and say, like, you're not very good at marketing, Bret. You could be making a killing. And I'd say, I don't care about that. I come from being a teacher. We didn't make any money, Mm-hmm. As the years went on, the money came, but I never cared about it. Like, it was just all about educating people and spreading my methods as far and wide as I could. And that involved giving away a lot of free content, which is what I've always done.
So then when did you run to get it trademarked? Were you like, I better protect this? Or did you have anybody like, no, we thought of that in 1955, or was it all good?
So it's interesting. It's funny because I patented my invention right away, and I just wanted to protect the idea for the invention. But then I never wanted to just have this be like, you can only do hip thrusts if you buy my special piece of equipment. So I taught people every way to do it possible, you know. But nowadays, you do hear a lot of people. I'm gonna try and pull this up on my phone. I want to show this. It's so funny because nowadays it's funny because people will say, "Oh, this exercise has been done forever. We've been doing this forever." And I always tell people, "Wow, really? Can you send me a picture?" Because I never found. I mean, I did a lot of research back in the day. I never found a single picture. And you'll hear people, and they're like, "I've been doing this since the 1980s." And I'll go, "Wow, can you send me a picture of anyone doing it then? Anyone?" And they're like, "Well, we didn't have cameras then." And I'm like, do you realize how stupid this sounds? I can find a picture of every exercise, like black and white mostly. Like you can find weighted dips done in the 50s, you know? You can find the origin of the bench press and how it transformed from they were doing on floor press to like doing them off like like milk cartons, and then finally finding bench presses. And every lift you can find people doing in black and white because it's been around for so long. You know, military press, squats, deadlifts, rows. You find them in the old school bodybuilding, like the barbell courses. The barbell courses, you'll find them. But there was never anything about the hip thrust. Now, there was some information in the book Super Training, but they didn't use barbells. They used manual resistance, people pushing on your hips, or you had a kettlebell suspended on the opposite leg and you do single leg. But no one ever had a barbell. So I tell people, if you have any evidence of barbell hip thrust, send it to me and I'll make a post about it. I would gladly, you know, at this point, people are going to credit me for it anyway. I'm the guy who popularized it. I think it would be cool to see, like, check it out. They were doing barbell hip thrusts in India in 1940s, but I've never found anyone. But so lately, people get so mad. It's a weird, they get angry that I'm credited for it, but they have no evidence. And they're like, we did this. And then I'm like, so you were doing this, but there's no record of it? You guys never took any pictures or videos? They're like, well, everyone was doing it. And I'm like, so everyone was doing it, and there's not a single record of it. And meanwhile, every other exercise was like, let's document every other exercise, just not the hip thrust. So then lately, I don't know if you can see this picture. See this?
Yeah.
People said this started surfacing, and they said that's Arthur Saxon doing hip thrust. And if you look at it, Arthur Saxon is old-time strongman, and it's hard to. Is there light coming in?
Yeah.
Block it. Try to block the light, but can you see that? And then you look closely. You look closely at it, and you're like, why are the shoes blacked out? And you look at that's a hammer strength bench they're using there.
Yeah, he's just failed a bench press, but it looks at
those are Penlay plates that he's using. And you look at the power rack in the background, and you're like, that's bolted together. That's a bolted power rack. And then that's not actually Arthur Saxon. You can tell it's not him. That's a modern picture of someone that looks like Arthur Saxon in black and white. And people go to great lengths to try to discredit me as the inventor. It's actually kind of comical, but I don't understand it. It's so bizarre to me. Like, why does it make people so upset?
Mate, I think that you've probably gained a really thick skin over the years. Especially you put out a lot of research, which has changed the game a lot, especially for glute training. But it's obviously going to come with its haters, its doubters, and stuff like that. So I'd imagine you have grown a really thick skin over it all. So yeah, mate, I think that before we get on to the fun fact about you, we're not going to miss that one. So don't think I forgot about it. I want to just grab 3 golden rules for any of the girls listening to this that any guys as well who are when lockdown is lifted. But for now, till when lockdown is lifted for the next 6 months, what's the 3 golden rules for glute training?
Well, I like my rule of thirds. I made a post on this a couple years ago. It's also in my book Glute Lab. But if you All right, a third of your exercises should be vertical in loading, a third horizontal, and a third lateral rotary. It doesn't have to work out perfectly, but this helps provide good balance, and it makes sure that not only that you hit all the different fibers of the glutes, but also that you're not doing too much of any one, like you're not over, you might be stimulating different mechanisms of muscle growth, but you're doing at least variety to where you're not going to be beat down. Because if all you did was 30 sets a week of walking lunges, you'd be beat down pretty good, If you did 30 sets of deadlifts a week, you'd be crushed. But you could do 10 sets a week of squats, deadlifts, and lunges, 10 sets a week of hip thrusts, glute bridges, back extensions, things like that, and 10 sets a week of like seated hip abduction and band work, and you'd be okay. The reason why is because vertical hip extension exercise that are vertically loaded, think of your barbell like on your back, squats, lunges, step-ups, deadlifts, good mornings. Those things, they beat you up the most. They load up the spine the most. They typically involve the most, like a large load through a long range of motion. They work you in the stretch position, so they create muscle damage. They're the hardest eccentrically, like you lower them deep down in the stretch. You got to kind of lower it slowly. You can't just dive bomb them. So those create the most muscle damage and the most systemic toll on your body. Now, in contrast, hip thrust can beat you up a little bit, barbell, glute bridges, back extensions, but not, they work you in a shortened muscle position. When they're their hardest when the muscles are at a shortened position, not in a stretch. So they don't create as much muscle damage. And then abduction movements work more of the upper glutes, and they don't beat you up much because they work you in a shortened position as well. So this allows you to perform more volume. Now, the other two components to the rule of thirds is that around a third of your exercise should be heavy, a third moderate, a third light. This way you kind of mix it up. You're not doing all high reps. You're not doing all heavy weight. And that probably allows you to do a little more volume and to make sure you stimulate hypertrophy through different mechanisms as well. And then finally, the last component is that around a third of your sets should be to actual failure, to complete muscular failure. And around a third should be a couple reps shy of failure, and then a third should be nowhere close to failure. Maybe five reps, 10 reps shy. That does anything. Well, think about the high rep stuff you do. Think about the band work. A lot of times you're doing band work and you're like, oh my God, I can't do another rep. But if someone had a gun to your head and they were like, you get 10 more, I'm going to shoot you, you could get 10 more. So the band work isn't really to failure. It's just to the point of, you're burning, it's uncomfortable. But in my opinion, this way it just provides an explanation of why you see all the women with the best glutes in the world, they're doing 30, 40 sets a week. You hear all the experts saying you should do 10 to 20 sets a week per muscle group. But these girls are doing much more, and that's because they're doing the rule of thirds.
Yeah.
Whether they know it or not.
Yeah, I think that would be a great thing for the listeners to write down on their notes in their diary when they're making their training plan that right, the rule of thirds, right? So does this plan reflect variety? Does it have different exercises, rep ranges? And that could be over a 3-week period. It's great to rotate that. Yeah. I know you're a big advocate of that. It's great. Week 1, you hit barbell back squats. Week 2, it could be a dumbbell squat variation. And then by week 3, again, when you go back to the back squat, the variation is always key with that. And I found that with my clients as well. And there's a certain buzz about it. I mean, let's be honest, what a lot of people do now, Bret, is they program the stuff they enjoy. And that ends up being their downfall in terms of glute growth because they enjoy it, Oh, yeah. I know a lot of people love the hip thrust and a lot of people hate it. But as we know now, there's no better feeling than after the hip thrust, especially. But what I find with that, Bret, as well, just a bit off topic, is, and you might have met this with a bit of disagreement from people who have tried to put sort of smoke over the hip thrust. But the barbell back squat, mostly people say I don't feel it in my glutes. So what they've done now is just totally remove that exercise from training plan. Now, I know you've made examples of this in your Instagram because you've shown, here is me, full range of motion in a barbell back squat. Then you've went on to explain it. So I'm a big advocate of the back squat and hip thrust. I use both of them, almost like every other week. But that's what something I wanted to ask you, and for the people and the listeners, is give them some hope for the back squat, mate, the barbell back squat, if you could.
I mean, look at Olympic lifters. Look at a lot of power lifters have nice glutes. Like, it works for a lot of people. People were getting nice glutes before I came around, you know, but it just people got even better glutes after I came around. So it's like you never, and there could be reasons why some people, you know, maybe some people respond better to eccentric and like the stretch position. Other people respond better to the short position, like more. I think the squat leads to more muscle damage, whereas the hip thrust leads to more tension and more metabolic stress. But these mechanisms of hypertrophy are disputed. We don't know enough right now. You've got all the top experts who disagree, but basically the real high-level researchers are saying nobody knows the answer to this yet. You know, no one knows the answer because as of right now, we don't know the exact signals and sensors at a molecular level. There's this talk about things like the YAP and hippo pathway, YAP/hippo pathway, and the nucleus flattens out and it activates the path. This nuclear flattening when you contract the muscle or stretch it under load, and it flattens out and it stimulates the mTOR pathway, and then you get muscle growth. But we don't really know. We don't know enough, so it makes sense right now to do variety and, you know, try for, you know, so right now I think you should do your squats and your lunges and things like that, because I take the shotgun approach. I talk about this in my book, in my seminars. I don't know right now if I hope that it's just, you know, what drives hypertrophy is just mechanical tension. And you just need to work on getting stronger at, you know, you don't have to worry about muscle damage or metabolic stress. Like, muscle damage does not build muscle at all, and metabolic stress does not build muscle at all. It's all just tension. That's what some people are saying. I hope they're right, because it would simplify things a lot. But something tells me, just from all my years of studying physiology, it's so complicated, so complicated. There's so many more things than you would think. Something tells me it's not that simple, and there's got to be more to the formula. And so because of that, I take the shotgun approach. I'm going to prioritize hip thrust. I'm still going to do my unit, but why would you just, I mean, if someone had a gun to your head and said, I'm going to, or like kidnapped your family and said, I'm not going to return them until you put 2 inches on your glutes. Are you just going to do one exercise? You know, are you just going to train them once a week? No, you'd be like, training glutes hard as hell at least 3 times a week, doing a variety of exercises. You'd be using progressive overload, trying to get stronger, but then towards the end of the workout, you'd be going for the mind-muscle connection, really trying to get a burn and a pump. You'd be trying to use everything at your disposal.
Yeah, love that, mate. I love that shotgun approach. I love that. Try something, basically, and then take note and then get some variety in. Awesome, Bret. Awesome. Second last wee bit, mate, before I let you go, is something fun about you, mate. You're one of the leading names in the industry. Scott and I look up to you massively. But let's get something fun about you, mate. Apart from the blue tick and the million followers, what's a bit of fun about you, mate? What do you enjoy doing? What's a sort of nice fun fact?
You know, I'm a pretty simple man, but I have you know, I like, you know, in the nighttime, I'll go on a walk. I will I try to watch some Netflix, I love watching, you know, new series and things like that. And I use my jacuzzi. I bought a house that has a jacuzzi because I used to have that in Phoenix before I moved to San Diego. I used a jacuzzi every night, so they're not as common here in San Diego. So I bought a house that has a jacuzzi, and then I'll read. I read a lot of journal articles in sports science, but I also read fiction, typically like books about like some like badass CIA agent that's on, you know, like hunting down people and stuff. But then and then I go to sleep. But the one thing I want to say, I'm the most annoying like sleeper ever. So I don't know why, but lately I don't even sleep on my bed. I sleep on my couch, and I'll sleep like, I think I get more. I don't know, being a big guy, it's hard to breathe. So if I don't sleep on I don't like sleeping on my back a lot. I'll sleep on my But if you're like smashed into the couch, I don't feel like I get as much air. So I'll sleep on the edge of the couch with my head so I can get more air. But I don't like a lot of noise, so I'll have it's like sound machine that makes white noise. It like makes a fan like, so I'll have this white noise going, and then I don't like a lot of light, and yeah, I'm just not a good sleeper. And I think it's been a double-edged sword for me because that's why I've been so productive throughout my life, because I'm not the biggest sleeper, but it's also not good. You know, we've seen all the research about how important sleep is. You should be getting 8 hours a night. Well, I do not get 8 hours a night, you know.
Yeah, I love that, mate.
I wake up with the slightest noise, I'm up. I have to have my ringer off. It's on, do not disturb. I can't have noises. I can't have anything, or else it wakes me up. And even then, even if I do everything perfectly, I usually wake up in the middle of the night starving, and I have to eat something and like go to use the restroom real quick, and I'll eat something and then go back to sleep. So yeah, it's just not a good. I wish I was a good sleeper. It'd be life changing if I could just be like other people and lay down, have the TV on, have people talking, and they could just pass out for 8 straight hours and wake up feeling amazing.
Yeah, mate, it's worked out for you. It's like everything. It's worked out for you, isn't it, so far, the lack of sleep. So yeah, mate, just to finish, just looking to find out what type of person are you? Are you planning for the next 6 months to the year? Has you got something big going on, or you just kind of take it as it comes? I'm a bit of a planner. Scott's a take it as it come kind of guy. So
yeah,
what about you? Yeah, he wings it quite a lot. What about yourself, Bret? Are you got stuff in the pipeline, or are you just constantly just taking each day as it comes?
So I'm just like Scott. Like I never have a clue what I'm going to do tomorrow. Like I don't know. Today it's now 1 p.m. here. I have a couple things I want to tick off, but I'm like, I need to think of something to post on Instagram. I never know what I'm going to post. I never have a clue. It's like I'll look around the gym and be like, what can I post about? I should write about this exercise, or maybe I'll talk about that. I have no clue. Nothing. I don't like committing to things because after the book was finished, I'm like, man, I need to take a break from things for a while. But I just, you get too bogged down with things. People, it's good to have habits and like things you do. Like my one thing is I like to post on Instagram at least like 4 times a week, and make them educational posts. But aside from that, I'm going to lift weights. I'm going to train people. I'm going to read some stuff. And then anything else is icing on the cake. So if I have a project that I'm doing, I try to plug away at that. But I have noticed that to get to where I am, it took a lot of work. But now I just want to maintain, and not longevity is the name of the game now. If I'm around another 15, 20 years, then I'll be doing just fine. I need to maintain my level of expertise. Well, how do I maintain that? By reading, by staying on top of the science, by working with lots of people, by lifting weights myself and experimenting and trying new things. But I don't have to, if I try, I'm like, when this whole quarantine came out, I could have scrambled and put together a body weight ebook, probably made a quick $1 million. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to exploit everyone and be an opportunist during this unfortunate time for everyone. So I've tried to put out free stuff on that. So it's more to me about, I've looked back at my life, and I'm 43 years old, and I can go, when was I the happiest? When was I and you can get fooled into thinking money makes you a lot happier. It doesn't. You have to have a good social support group and good friends and the social connectivity, and not be too stressed out and not take on too much. We trainers, especially with social media now, you have a reason to be busy round the clock all day long. You could be training people, you could be lifting weights, you could be working on content, you could be answering DMs, you could be round the clock, just be, I got to do this, and I need to be doing this. And then all of a sudden you realize one day, I hate my life and it's my fault. And so we have to have balance. In the social media age, it's really hard to have balance, because before social media, at nighttime, You read, you went to sleep. There's nothing you could be doing. Now you can be on your phone around the clock. You know, for the last 6 years, I've answered everyone's DMs. Like, it was like 4 hours a night. I just got to a point just recently, actually during the quarantine, more people start DMing me. I was getting like over 1,000 a day, and I just said, I can't maintain this. So I stopped. It's been nice. Not having, I feel bad, but at what point should you not be reach? But that's what I'm after now, is more of life balance and, you know, working hard, but not to the point where I'm hating my life and dreading tomorrow because I've got a schedule booked from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Bret. That's where I'm not speaking for Scott as well, but it will be similar. As aspiring entrepreneurs, we feel like we have to be all over it. We're trying to grow the business. We're trying to scale the business. We're trying to train as many people as possible and make an impact in the industry. So yeah, I love that, mate. And I will listen to that back next week when I'm starting to feel a bit overwhelmed. And I'm sure, don't get me wrong, there's a time when trainers have to knuckle down, and you spent 15, 20 years of doing all that, and it's got you to where you've got to. However, you can still find a balance in there. And I think that's something that routines and schedules, you know, I dip into the social media 3 times a day, and that just keeps me from it stops me from acting reactively as well about stuff and getting emotional about stuff. And I know there's a ton of trainers listening to this, and even just general population, that can really take value from that. You know, I get a couple of clients who nip into the groups, the community groups and stuff, and get a bit demotivated by it. And it's like, well, you've been in and out of the group all day. You know, and the same can be said with trainers who maybe look at other trainers and see them killing it during lockdown, and really they just have to focus on themselves and get their head straight. So yeah, mate, that'll be getting recorded. That'll be getting blasted on my Instagram so that people can listen to that again, because that was a great piece of advice, mate. Appreciate that. So yeah, mate, we'll not hold you any longer. Massive thank you for coming on. This is gold for the YouTube, the Facebook, and the podcast. So I'll get tagging, get it up on the socials. And yeah, Scott, you want to?
Yeah, Bret, that was awesome. Thanks very much. Really appreciate you taking the time to out of your day to chat to us. We know you were just obviously finishing up some sessions there just now, so it's good that you freed up the time to have this chat. We took a lot from it.
Yeah,
we did.
My pleasure.
Awesome, Bret. And guys, if you're listening, watching, listen back, go and head over to Bret's website. There is a ton of gold in there, and I mean everything from articles to right through to the products and services that he's got, especially right now with lack of gym equipment. But yeah, Bret's all about free information as well. Like, you just have to go on a podcast that he's appeared on and his YouTube channel to really, if you're really serious about glute development, then go on that. Not to mention as well, glutes are fantastic. Bret actually advocates massive strength. He's a strength coach. So please, if you're not also looking to build glutes and you're looking to build shoulders back, you know, get strong as hell across all movements, which you should be doing. He has a lot of info on that as well. So yeah, have a nice night and a good afternoon. Bret, I'll speak to you on the other side, mate. Have a lovely day.